And we are covering the monthly analysis sheet today. And you can add it right on top of your foundation template. It's built to work on top of the foundation template. If you're using any older versions of our templates, if you've been with us for a while, just know that you probably won't be able to add this unless you are using the foundation template. So you can get it from the Tiller Money Labs add-on. And if you don't have this add-on yet, you can get it from the Get Add-ons menu, or Get Add-ons here, search for Tiller Money Labs. Randy's added some awesome menus into the Labs add-on in the past couple weeks. And so this one here, Add a Solution, is one of my most recent actions that I've done in Tiller Money Labs. So it's showing me this recent action, but I can also get to it from Solutions, Add a Solution, and then you can always get to it from Open a Sidebar, Add a Solution. But I'll go ahead and use our shortcut here because I'm really excited about those.
Glad to see you're using those, Heather.
Yeah. I still haven't dug into the search. So
the search is awesome.
I know. All right, so back to the point here. Monthly analysis sheet under solutions. You can learn a little bit more about it here, and then you just click add to spreadsheet. Any of the solutions here, you add them to your spreadsheet. They're going to create a new tab in the Google Sheet. It'll let you know once it's installed it, and it'll give you a link to the support page for it. That's interesting, Randy. You should take note of that. I don't know if it's just in mine or the missing logo.
Yeah, that's strange.
So you can open up the support content for it that's over on the community. All our lab solutions are supported by the Tiller Money community, all the documentation's over there. So feel free to check that out if you need more information about how to use it beyond what you get from this webinar. So I'm going to go ahead and close this because I don't need the labs add-on anymore right now. Okay, so we built this sheet after getting a lot of really requests in support about how to do a month-over-month comparison of your budgeting information. And so that's really the main intent, is to kind of help you understand how things have changed month over month. And this sheet has a lot of horsepower. There's a lot of layers you can add on top. And so that's kind of how I like to think about it. The controls here in the top left are really going to dictate what changes in the rest of this dashboard. And so you can look at the past 12 months, or you can look at whatever years you have configured, both in the transaction sheet and in the budget sheet. Right now, I only have 2020 data available in this sheet, so that I only see the year for 2020. So I like to just keep it at 2020, and then you can show different values. So this is all based on the foundation templates like budgeting that you set up in the category sheet, your actuals, which are coming from your transaction sheet, and then the available, which is the difference between the budgets and the actuals, or maybe it's expense versus income. I think the available one always confuses me, but I don't know, Randy, if you know exactly how the formula works, because I think it could work.
Income versus expense, and it's probably similar to cash flow. The only thing I'm not quite sure about is if you had uncategorized transactions, if those would kind of slip through the cracks and not show up in your cash flow.
I think they probably would. So thanks for the clarification on that. So really, I like to just look at the actual when I'm looking at the data here, and I can choose to see my actual expense, my actual income. So you can drill down by the type, and that's, income versus expense type. And then I can apply a filter or not. And so in this case, I'm going to have it showing all. I'm not going to apply a filter for drilling down at this time, because I really just want to get that big picture of my actual expenses. And so it kind of lets me know, gives me a summary of what I'm seeing here. So these are my actual expenses for all transactions. Obviously, that's all categorized transactions. If something's not categorized, it's not going to fall into an expense type. So just keep that in mind too. To get the most accurate data, you're going to want to make sure all your transactions are categorized. So then I can start to drill down and look at, month over month. And so you can see that, like in February, my actuals decreased a bit. And so that's what this versus prior month is telling me. It starts in the next kind of available month. Obviously, there's no prior month for January 2020 right now. So I get that my actuals decreased by 18%. So it's negative 18. And then that's green because that's a good thing, right? I had 18% less expenses. And then you can kind of go month over month and see, okay, March was 5% less than February. Then I get down into May, and May was 10% more than April. So that's how you can kind of compare month over month actual expenses for all categories, all groups. I also get the just amount value difference here in this column. And then the big chart here is basically just going to show you the budget versus actual for whatever is configured here, whether that's expense or income or all group or a specific group or a specific category. So right now it's showing me that my actuals were pretty much less than my budgeted, because it's always going to show actual versus budget. And so, I can see where my budget increased. I can see where my actuals increased or decreased, but it looks like other than maybe at the very beginning of the year, it was doing pretty well because I was under my budget for my expenses. If I flip to income, for example, then I start to see the chart looks a little bit different. And in my case, the way I have this demo sheet set up, it's not that useful because my budget for my income is the same every month. It's $4,000. And then let's say that's my salary and I make that every month. So it's kind of a flat line, so just keep that in mind. It jumps down here because we haven't gotten into November, got paid and all that. So just keep that in mind, but still it's showing actual versus budget. And then farther down, this chart down here is very similar to the yearly budget sheet, but it's only giving you the data for whatever your selection for the values that you choose at the top. So because I have actuals showing up here, it's going to show me the actuals. And it's going to give me all my types, all my groups, all my categories. And then it gives me the cash flow, which is, the net expense minus income. And so those are the basics of it. A lot of times, when I'm using this personally, I want to drill down into a specific category. It's great to kind of get the big picture, but what happens when we start to look at specific categories or groups? So let's go and look at our a specific group here. If I look at let's say I look at my living group, and I'm really curious about how things have changed, especially this year. This is where, the chart starts to light up a little bit differently and you can get some great insights. And so the beginning of the year, once again, my living expenses, things were kind of going down until, decreasing as far as the actuals go until, April and then May. And then I can actually then dive in using what's at the bottom to help me understand where things jumped up in specific categories. So if I go down into here and I look at, let's see, E, that's the April column, I can start to compare, okay, for my living category, where did things jump up? Oh, it looks like groceries. Okay, so that was just as the United States was kind of getting locked down and everybody was deciding that they needed to hoard groceries because we were going to be stuck in our homes. And so it's just an interesting way to kind of to dive into that specific category. Similarly, because I knew that was going to happen, if I flip into looking at my budgets, so you can also get budget amounts, I can see how that changes things. I see that in April, my budgeting for my living group jumped up 24%. So then I can kind of drill down using this section at the bottom to see, okay, so that was April. And then I can see, okay, why did it jump up so much? When I compare it against March, I can see once again, it was that grocery budget. I intentionally increased that budget because I knew I was going to spend more. And then you get that same sort of visual over here to kind of help you understand how things compare, how things have changed. And so I'm looking at my living group, my expenses, and I can see my actual versus my budget and how things have changed for that group. I can get even more granular by going down to the category level, and then you got to reselect, okay, what category do I want to look at? Let me really drill down into groceries. Once again, I'm looking at my budget so I can see how my budget has changed. And then I still get that information about the actual here because it's always going to show me budget versus actual. So I can see oh, okay, my actuals were way above my budget in some cases. considerably, not crazy, but I can see how my budget changed in response to the pandemic and being stuck at home. And then if I flip over to looking at my actuals, then I can get a sense for how did it actually change. And so even in February, my actuals jumped up. They jumped again in March, slightly down or actually nope, you jumped 12% up from March, so still up. And they just continued to creep up until finally, like, I felt like I had enough food in the pantry as a backup, and toilet paper, and then it's just started slowly creeping down. And then I can drill down into, groceries is always here because it's kind of laying everything out for you, but then I can look month over month this way too, if I want to compare it against other categories in different groups. All right, so that's essentially everything I had to demo. Randy, do you have anything to add or anything you want me to show?
No, I think the demo is great. I mean, it's just, I think some of the sheets are really simple. They do like one small job, or templates, I should say. I think this one's a little bit harder to get your head around because it's more of like a Swiss Army knife. But I think we all have sort of challenges in like understanding, making sense of numbers. And the intent here is to really give you a bunch of tools, like an Swiss Army knife, to like go in and like dig into problems and see trends. Like, I think this is especially for me, at least at the new year, I really want to understand, like, how is my budget off, and like now going into the next year, how do I make my next budget better, and how do I understand what happened? And this is a really great sheet for that.
Yeah, I would agree. The one that I think that's most complex to kind of wrap your head around is probably the available values, but they are interesting. Like, you can see here, the chart doesn't change. It's always just going to show you budget versus actual, but this element of things and then the yearly will show you. And so it's kind of like, for the expense category, groceries, what was available, like I was actually over $152 for my groceries budget. And so that's an interesting way to kind of look at, if I know that I was over budget, I can really drill down into how much I was over budget with that available option in the selections at the top, just to kind of understand, like, okay, this is how much I was over. I guess that when you look at the actual, maybe it also, nope, that's just giving you the difference from the prior month. So yeah, that is handy in kind of seeing, like, how much was I over. So there was a big difference between, I actually had a little bit left over in January, and then February, I was like way over. It was way over in March too. So, and this is pretty like close to my actual data. This is all my actual data. I sanitize it for my demos and stuff, but the groceries are pretty close. So it's just an interesting reflection of my life. So this is a good one where if you're going to join us tonight and you want to be able to tell a story, like, just install this sheet and it'll tell you a story. So, all right. Well, let's go ahead and take some Q&A. Looks like Randy just posted that RSVP link in the chat, so that's what that was. If anyone has any questions about this sheet or anything else that you'd love to see us talk through or demo, anything that's quick, we can do that. So looks like someone asked, can you tell me how you found this sheet? Sure. So you can get this sheet and add it on top of your foundation template using the Tiller Money Labs add-on. If you don't have that add-on, once again, you can get it via Get Add-ons. And then you just search for Tiller Money Labs. And then once you install it, you can go here to Solutions, add a solution, or you can always just load the main sidebar.
Heather, this is your big opportunity to try the search.
Oh, yes.
So we could just go into the sidebar and type monthly or analysis right there.
So monthly.
Hit enter.
And then hit enter.
Oh,
there we go. Look at that.
And then you could click on it, and well, at this point, it'll take you over to the Manage Solutions because it's installed. Manage Solutions is for kind of restoring or upgrading things you already have installed. If you haven't installed it yet, it would have jumped you over to the Add Solutions, which Heather demoed earlier.
Yeah, so if you don't have it yet, you can get it from Add a Solution, or when you search for it, it'll prompt you, but you can always get to it from here, and then it'll be listed here in the solutions. And then for any of these, you just click Add to Spreadsheet, and then it adds a tab. So. All right, anyone else have questions? Get them in. Looks like something came through in the chat. Any plans to include savings values from the savings budget solution? Would be cool to see that data here as well.
That's
Yeah.
a really great idea, Jonathan. Honestly, we hadn't considered that yet, but I don't see any reason we couldn't do that, and it's just that's a cool idea. I like it. This sheet was developed long before the savings budget existed, and so I think as there's kind of been more and more folks from our community on the savings budget, integrating the two makes more and more sense. So I'll definitely talk to Heather and also John Orland, and we'll see if that's something we can whip out.
Yeah, because I think it would fit nicely with it would just be, what would it be? It would be one of these, right? Budget actual available.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think because
Talk
these
to her how
are,
to do that.
these correspond to what's here, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that could make sense. All right, cool. Other questions? Let's see. So how do you get your sheets to update? How often do you need to do it? Is that in reference to updating and getting transactions in the sheet, or is that in reference to updating a sheet that you installed from labs, maybe because there's like a new version available? So if you want to clarify, updating a sheet from labs. Randy, you want to speak to that one?
Yeah. So we occasionally, I should step back and just say one of the things that we're really excited about in this add-on is that we can do kind of version management. We can see what version, we actually don't load your data, but we can see when the add-on loads, it sees what versions you have installed, and then we can compare those to the newest versions. So if we find ways to improve sheets, like for example, Jonathan's suggestion of adding a feature, or if we find a small bug, when you look in this managed solutions pane, you'll see instead of saying OK up there, it'll show you the version change, and it'll, instead of saying restore sheet like that monthly analysis does, it'll say upgrade sheet. And so you'll have the opportunity to replace the sheet with a newer version. So honestly, the changes are kind of ad hoc. If it's an older sheet, it's probably pretty stable. We don't change it very much. And if it's a newer sheet, we'll probably keep finding little ways to make it better. And Heather, if you could jump back to the main sidebar. When you open Tiller Labs, you'll always see it where it says Managed Solutions. Right now it says there are 10 installed kind of managed solutions that we're keeping track of in this spreadsheet. If there's one that's out of date, and it would say like 9 in green and then 1 in red, and then that would be kind of your cue to go into Managed Solutions and see if you could upgrade yours.
Yeah, and so as far as how often, it really just depends on if there are updates. Otherwise, you don't need to do anything. And then as far as getting the updates, I think we do have some version history information when you have the update or upgrade option. It gives you information about like what's changed, and so that can help you decide.
Yeah, that's a good point, Heather. It doesn't show right now because there isn't any changes on that one. We have like a little change version history. And I think that's important for some users because, these are spreadsheets, and one of the cool things about them is you can make them your own. You can change them. You can make them better. You could add your own features to them very easily. And so the version history was something we added because we were concerned that users would sort of see an update and wonder, like, is this worth replacing my works and then having to re-add all my own personal tweaks in, or is this something that I can wait a little bit longer on and keep my personalized sheet?
Yeah. The great thing though is no matter whether you're restoring or you're upgrading, when you do it, you're prompted about whether or not you want to overwrite. And so you can always archive your existing one, which would allow you to get the new version, but keep all the changes you had made to like your customizations, and then you can easily copy those over. So you won't lose it, but it just wouldn't be in your live sheet anymore. And so the restore feature is really great because if, let's say that I just like blow this away, it's broken my sheet, but I can easily just restore it. And in this case, I would just overwrite it because I don't need an archive of it. It's a visualization. I haven't made any real customizations that I can't easily just, change the selections again. And so I think that's what's awesome about labs too, is that it's really easy to restore things when you break them. And we do, I know I break stuff all the time and customers do all the time. So it's not such an awesome feature. Okay. So any other questions anyone else has? Get them in the Q&A. I did, when I was like getting ready to demo this, I'll just share it because I love, it's just a Google Sheets thing, but like I find this chart to be, I don't know, I want to make it different, you know? And so what's cool about it is that, I'll just show that again. You can customize this a bit. If you just click these little ellipses, click edit chart, you can go to customize and the chart style. I like to make mine smooth because I like the lines to look smooth. I don't really want it to be maximized. I like it to, I don't know, I don't like the maximum view of it. And then you can do other cool little things like the data labels. That can get kind of messy in some circumstances, but it's nice to have it in others. So I just want to share that because I think that Google makes it easy to customize things. And I think that just looks like a prettier chart now. Maybe without all the data labels. Randy probably hates the data labels.
No, it's nice. I like Heather said, you should definitely feel free to change names and go crazy with the sheet, and just keep in mind that if you do restore or upgrade one, those changes will get blown out. Most of the sheets, Heather used the word visualizations. Visualizations are kind of how we call internally sheets that don't really store any data, but pull data from all your transactions and categories and show stuff like this, like help you analyze. Most of the templates are just visualizations, and so when you wipe them out and replace them, you're not really losing any data. You're just losing maybe the few green settings like on this sheet. There are a few sheets like the debt progress sheet where you actually do maybe have loan information, and those ones are a little more complicated if you upgrade or restore them because you have to put the data back in.
True. Yeah, I don't have any of those in here, but what is the one I'm looking for? I want the one that shows me I can't find it, but it's the one that has the dots. I want the dots. I like the little dots on there. But anyway. All right, so there's no questions. So I think we can go ahead and wrap. Thanks everyone for joining us today, and hope to see you this evening at the customer meetup.
Yeah,
thanks,
great.
Randy.
Thanks for joining, everyone. Thanks, Heather.